Welcome to the Money Watch Show. It's Thursday, April 20th. I am Jill Schlesinger. I'm one of your co-hosts. Our other co-host is Mark Talercio, executive producer extraordinaire and co-host and great guy. Hi, Mark.
Buongiorno, come stai?
How are your Italian lessons going?
Going well. I finally, I kind of feel like, starting to make progress. This is the beginning of we're midway through month number 4 now.
And then Mandarin next?
Maybe if the opportunity presents itself, if the time allows, we'll see. It's a commitment. If you really, really want to learn a language fluently, it's a very big commitment, and it doesn't happen. It's not like a 1-year thing. This is a several year process.
And you have to stick with it. Otherwise, you're not going to like all of that comes out. It's not, it's not really. It certainly is not going to be something that you're like, oh, it's like riding a bike. No, you actually have to use it. Otherwise, it just atrophies. It's nasty. All right, Mark, today we need to bring someone on the air with us because that's what we do. We try to answer your financial questions, or we just try to help you articulate what your priorities are, and we help you understand what the choices that are in front of you are. Then you can choose. But sometimes we all get stuck. I get it. It's quite emotional when you're thinking about money and life decisions. So we get that. Just go to our website, JillOnMoney.com. Click the Contact Us button. We'll get your note. Today, we're speaking to John, who's on the line from Northern California.
So I'm 43. My wife is 42. And, really just kind of interested to see if we're on track for retirement and really if our savings allocation is what it should be. I'm kind of a new listener, and I've grasped that there's a couple no-nos in your book, and I'm doing one of them. So, and I want to walk you through it and tell you why I'm doing it.
I'm gonna guess he's paying down the mortgage.
That's a good guess.
All right. So, John, you're married. Are you both working?
We are both working. Yes.
How much do you earn?
Combined, we average about $550.
Oh, that's terrible. Poor you. Cue the hate mail. Okay. And do you have kids?
We have 2 kids. We have a 11-year-old daughter and a 6-year-old boy.
Are your kids in private or public school?
They're public school. We moved to where we're at so they could go to public school.
Okay, great. Are you guys both secure in your industries? Like you feel good? Or is this, I don't know, because you say Northern California, you're making a lot of money. Are you tech people?
No, we're salespeople, both medical device salespeople. And, I'd say, and we've both been doing it now for, almost 20 years. And, I guess we're secure, but I think that's part of why we got into what we got into, because it kind of, you keep that edge if you don't feel secure.
Oh, I know. That is the salesperson's curse and miracle, isn't it? That when you're insecure and you hustle, you end up creating great things for yourself, but you have to know that there's always something. You're always trying to create something. I get that. Do you guys work for the same company?
No, different companies.
That would be weird. Are you both maxing out your retirement accounts?
Yeah, we've been doing that for years, and we got, pretty generous matches from our companies as well.
Okay. Tell me how much money and are they pre-tax or post-tax?
Pre-tax.
Okay. And how much money is in your current retirement account, both of you? Or you can put them together or go one by one.
Well, so my 401k is about 870. Her 401k is about 700. We have an IRA that I started years ago, with 35,000 in it. We have a brokerage with 180,000 in it.
How do you invest that brokerage account? Is that just are you picking stocks? Is it individual mutual funds, exchange traded funds? What's going on?
Yeah, there's some ETFs, but it's mostly blue chip stocks. The Apples of the world, Microsofts of the world.
Okay. So 870 your 401k, 700 her 401k, 35 IRA, 180 brokerage. What else you got?
So we got 100,000 invested with this venture capital firm that I got in through a friend who's gotten some really good returns over the years. So expecting that to grow quite a bit over the next decade or so.
Great. I'll write that down to 0. Not counting. Okay, thanks. But I really am not. I'm not even going to include it because who knows, right? What about money in the bank?
Our emergency fund, it's kind of low right now because, since we moved in, we bought this house in 2016. We've done about $400,000 in renovations.
Oh my God.
Yeah. So, which we paid for in all cash. But our emergency fund is it's only 60 right now, but that'll be up around 100 here in the next couple months.
Okay. That's
some
fine.
Bonuses coming in.
So tell us about the house. How much is it worth now
The
that you
house
put
is worth-
400 grand into it?
Yeah, it's worth 2.2 million.
Oh my God. How much did you buy it for? Just out of curiosity.
1.6, or excuse me, 1.4.
1.4. Okay. And what's the mortgage balance that's outstanding?
800.
What's the interest rate that you're aggressively paying down?
All right, so here we go. It's 2.875,
Yes.
but it's a 10-year arm, and we have 8 years left.
Oh, interesting. So 10-year arm and 8 left. But you want to stay in this house, right?
Well, we want to stay in this house until at least our son is off to college.
Okay, so what does that give me? 12 years?
About probably 13, give a year or so for padding.
Huh.
So my goal is to get it down between $400,000 and $500,000 when it gets to that 10-year expiration. So then I could either, if rates are down, obviously refinance it or just pay it off.
Okay, so now I see the dilemma. So how are you addressing this? Are you just methodically putting more money down, or are you throwing money at the mortgage when you have a big bonus or a good quarter? Or how are you doing it right now?
We're doing it monthly. So the mortgage is around $3,700 a month. And then every month I throw an additional $1,400 at it.
I presume neither of you would be entitled to a pension. Is that correct?
Correct.
When you look at your cash flow right now, you're maxing out your 2 401ks. You're putting extra $1,400 down on the mortgage. Is there any other savings? Have you done a 529 plan for the kids?
Yeah, so we have 2 529 plans. For my daughter, we have $126,000, and for my son, we have $71,000.
Are you putting in money on an ongoing basis, or like monthly, or again, are you doing it on an ad hoc basis?
It's 8,000 a year is what we do per kid.
Okay. Who knows? But are you sort of planning on trying to finance a public or a private education?
The California schools are pretty impacted and really tough to get into these days. My kids they're pretty smart, but I know those out-of-state colleges love the out-of-state tuition. And my wife and I are just really big on the whole, college experience, education. We view them as just incredibly transformative years, and we want to send them to really any school they want to go to.
Which it sounds to me like as you and your wife had a really good time in college. That's what it sounds like when you make that description. Oh, they're formative. And by the way, there was great drugs. There was a really nice amount of beer. Okay, no, I'm just kidding. I tend to agree with you. It's a nice time to grow up, but it's an expensive 4 years, right? Are you intending in your minds, you're saying, okay, we got to put the money away. We got to have, whatever, $500,000 each for these kids to go to school. Is that kind of in your mindset right now?
Yeah, I was thinking more along the lines of $250 each per kid.
All right. So not that good a school, Jill.
Yeah, no, we're not talking Ivy League or Stanford or Stanford.
All right. Of course, if they can get in, we'll then change our minds. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So what's going to give here? So how do you feel about your cash flow? You guys, this is a strange thing to say to someone who's making $500,000 a year, but you're saving a bunch of money. You've got kids. You've got a big house expense. So how are you feeling about cash flow right now, John?
I kind of structure where we live almost paycheck to paycheck. We live off of our base salaries.
Yep.
And then everything else goes to, paying down the house and to saving.
Before I try to convince you about the house thing, am I going to convince you, or are you just not to be convinced?
No, absolutely I can be convinced.
Okay. My concern right now is that $1,400 a month right now is robbing you of the ability to actually more fully fund the education, which I think is really a pretty important, it sounds to me like an important priority. And I don't think you're going to cover 2 private school, even mid-tier private school educations at your pace right now. Mark, what do you think? Do you think that there is an idea here where we could take that extra $1,400 a month that they're paying down on the mortgage and shift it to education? Do you think that's a better use of the money?
Well, it's definitely a better use of the money. That goes without saying. You and I are kind of on the same page when it comes to paying down mortgages, especially when it's a super cheap rate. They got good 529 balances right now. If his goal is 250-ish.
And they're adding $8,000 a year to each, right? So it's 16, right? So, you have 6 times 8 is there's another 50 that goes in. You can't assume a big amount of increase on that. These are age-based accounts, right? So this is I think you get to be like 225-ish. But if this kid gets into a good school, you're not going to be able to pay for it.
Yeah, that will definitely come in below 250, unless they decide that they're just going to cash flow the difference. I don't know.
Which you could, I guess. There is that. But I guess, well, here's the thing. Once you pay off this house, I mean, I just feel like the better risk to take in my mind is to keep paying on the house right now. Okay. I think the risk is that, like, okay, in 10 years, I don't want to be left being forced to sell my home. Right. So the worst thing that happens for you is that for some reason, mortgage interest rates never go down between now and 8 years from now. I think that's highly unlikely, but let's just pretend they stay higher for longer. And let's say that then you have to do another arm and the rate is higher, but there's a much lower balance. Then you're really in a place where you have so much equity in your home that, maybe you have to pay up a little bit interest wise at the end of the note to refi. Maybe you have to extend it. Maybe you have to pay it down in a big way, later, or maybe you have to sell it. But if you really want to put education first, I don't think you can pay this mortgage down as aggressively as you're paying it down.
And plus, they want to eventually sell the house anyway.
Well, that's the thing. If you really believe, well, you're not so sure, are you?
I'm not so sure, but we might, go to another place and rent this one out. We don't know. It's all up in the air.
Dude, I want that $2 million of equity right now, or 1 point. Truly, I want that like $1.5 million of equity. So I think the problem with the game plan, as you put it out there, it's not that I'm so against this, okay? But I do think the problem that it leaves you is that if at the end of the 10 years, you have the eight more years, you don't have a mortgage, right? But you don't have enough money to pay for college, you're in the same place. Where are you going to get the money from? Are you going to just maybe you could take some from the brokerage, but I'd rather you have the money in the 529 accounts because they are actually more efficient. I think that 250 is probably on the low side. If they go to a public school, you're sweet. It's great. But if you really think that education is such a priority, and it sounds like it is, I think that you got to put more money into the 529 plan. And maybe the way to do this is to kind of say, all right, of the $1,400, let's say that we take 1,000 and we put it into the 529, right? So we split it 500 more each. Okay. And then maybe keep the extra 400 and put it in the brokerage so that you still build up some liquidity. But once I pay down that mortgage, I'm stuck with this thing called a house. And then it's a much bigger decision. And if you still have the house and you still have, let's say at the end of 8 years, instead of 800,000, I don't know what'll be left. It'll probably be like 700,000 or 600,000. It won't be that much, right? I mean, it won't be that much in terms of you will not have whittled it down as quickly. But what you'll do is you can always refi it and you'll be on the lookout to refi between now and then. I feel like that's a better risk because, big deal. So you can refi it again, or you can sell it at that point. You could be like, you know what? We're done. Or we'll buy it down a little bit and we'll refi it and we'll get a 7-year arm at that point. But I think that you have more opportunities of being creative by holding on to the cash rather than paying down the outstanding mortgage balance. But I mean, if that makes you and your wife crazy, I don't want to make you crazy. Let me ask you a question. How much longer do you think you guys really want to work? Like, you're hardworking people. You're in your early 40s. Are you the kind of people who are going to work till you're 62?
So I don't mind. I'd like my wife to be able to retire as soon as possible. Maybe, obviously probably 50 being the earliest, maybe 55, but I can do my job anywhere. So I don't mind, working until I'm 60.
I feel like you're going to have options. Do you guys have life insurance?
We do. I got about 1.8 on me and she's got about 1.3 on her.
Okay. Estate documents?
Yes.
I mean, and by the way, big picture, you guys are in your early 40s. You got nearly $2 million saved. You're going to be saving a lot of money for the next several years. I mean, you're in great shape.
Totally.
Yeah. And that's one of my, the second part of my question was, are we on track?
Yeah, totally. You are. All we're saying is that we want you to shift the surplus cash flow to the priority that you articulated, which is to education. Just think of it this way. When you're in this mindset, when you're like, I want the mortgage done, think, wait a minute, I want access to my money. That's what I really want. And I want to have that in the most efficient way to have access to my money. And listen, if your wife wants to pull back and, as you said, it's 8 years from now, you're going to have a lot more information. And by the way, like maybe if we find out that 11-year-old daughter is going to, Berkeley and you don't need all the money you've saved and you're like, oh, you know what, honey? Like we don't really need to go crazy with you anymore working, or you can go halftime or whatever. Like there'll be more choices. We'll have more information. Given the information you have laid out today, I do think you're in very good shape. It's just really like, okay, instead of putting money in that pot, put it in this pot. That's all. Make sense?
Makes a lot of sense. I really appreciate it.
Okay, if you have a situation you want to run by us, all you need to do is go to the website, JillOnMoney.com. Click the Contact Us button. And if you want to join us on the air, just check the box at the bottom of the form. Don't forget, there's a free weekly newsletter, comes out every single Friday. Mark does a great job with that. We've got other content refreshed all the time. The book, links to where you can buy the book, The Great Money Reset, and our brand new service, Jill on Money Live. It's all there on our website. Mark Talercio is the co-host and executive producer of this program. Karen Kranick is our web queen. We are distributed by Paramount Global. We drop our episodes every Tuesday and Thursday. Do something nice for someone else today. Change your work, change your wealth, change your life. Thank you for listening. We'll talk to you next week.